Yeah, but artists have protection. Producers don't. So one thing artists have over us is they have some sort of unions already in place. At least some of them. I mean, there's a union when my friend Memory played guitar on the Ludacris and Rick Ross record I produced. He had a union behind him as a session player. Me as the guy that made the beat, I don't have a union.
Michael Jordan got cut from his high school team as a freshman and then went on to be the greatest player in the history of the NBA. And I don't want to debate with you whether you think LeBron or Kobe. Shout out to y'all. But like, Michael Jordan influenced the game in a way that nobody else ever has. If he took that defeatist, poor mentality, he would have just been like, man, I'm so talented, but they never was rocking with me, so I didn't try out for the team again. And Michael Jordan would have never been Michael Jordan. The game of basketball would have never been the game of basketball. I have a raggedy ass bench tattooed on me because one of my artists calls himself a bench warmer because he said people counted him out. They didn't pay attention to him, but then when he stepped into the game, he changed it, and it's true, and he like a lot of success, but I resonate with that. I could tell you 200 L's that I've taken for every half of a win that I've gotten. If I stuck with that, I wouldn't be on here. Y'all wouldn't be complaining about me in the fucking comments. I read them, y'all, and I love seeing y'all's energy towards
No, it's true, though.
It means y'all are watching, and that doesn't bother me. Why would I be bothered by attention when we're living in an attention economy? I have a great community around me, and I have a lot of people who really respect and rock with what I do. The people who have negative things to say about me give me pause so that I can evaluate if there's anything to learn from that. But they also give me direction, either a direction to run to or to run from. Most of the time to run from. But y'all saying that your reason for not succeeding is because people are hating on you and basically nobody knows you exist is wild. It's wild. I could give you 50,000 case studies on people hating on me since the beginning of time. Why would that stop me? It should be fuel for your rocket. It should be understanding for your ascent. Like, you're using an excuse so that you can have an echo chamber of your own thoughts and ideas and say that, oh, it won't work because these people do these things. It's almost like y'all get excited when one or two people hate on you and you'll be like, folks be hating. And it's like, it's a weird ass stance to take. If anybody gets hate, Pain gets hate. Like, yo,
I do.
Pain be getting daily. I would not be able to function if I were you. I would just be annoyed. I'd be like, that's really why I stopped tweeting as much. I stopped tweeting because folks be hating for no reason. It's like y'all have no rhyme or reason. The way that Pain keeps going, I feel like part of it really does fuel him. As Kanye would say, alternative energy. It works for me a little bit, but I need to be nurtured and loved, so I stay away from it. But like,
I need to be nurtured and loved as well. I don't love that. No, I'm just saying I'm not an alpha male YouTube channel. I'll put it that way.
Yeah, for sure. But you also have hella platinum records, so you're not like, oh, let me stop producing because they said I don't know what I'm talking about.
Oh no, but that's the thing. Like, if I'm not going to quit now when things are going well. It was more if I didn't quit 15 years ago when I was broke as hell and no one cared about my music. You know, now enough people care about my music, and so I'm just focused on that. But I see people nowadays, and it's like, for the last 15 years, well, I was just blocking out the white noise and trying to keep my head down and focus on who cared about the music. You've been focused on who doesn't care about your music. That's completely backwards. I don't know. That's why people shoot themselves in the foot, I guess. I
feel like the only person who matters is you. If you care, it's worth doing it. You know what I'm saying? And then a lot of people will even get hung up with that. And I know we've been on this topic for a long time, but a lot of people will be like, well, I care, so I don't really care what y'all got to say. The thing is, I'm going to be real. You don't really care, because if you really cared, you would have leaned into it harder.
Yeah.
You think you care, and you kind of care, and you care enough to defend yourself, but you don't really care. Because if you care, you lean in. You try, you exert effort with reckless abandon when you really care. Like if you think about if you got a kid and you really care about your child, everything reorients around your child because you're like, their livelihood and well-being is my top priority. When you have a significant other and your whole schedule, your regimen, everything changes because you really care. A lot of people say they care about things, but they don't. So a lot of people are frustrated because they're moving in a direction around something that they in theory care about, but their actions, their daily life doesn't actually align with. And so for me, I think I would love to set some of y'all free. If you don't really have no emotion, you probably don't care. Just set yourself free. Say this shit is a hobby. There's nothing wrong with having a hobby. This shit is a hobby. Go do what you actually do so you can stop being frustrated by the lack of momentum. You know what I'm saying? Maybe you're just like a really great carpenter. You know, I had a friend who was like working in the music industry, and he was really into, like, he was a high level assistant, and he wanted to be an A&R, and he had all these dreams, but he was like building shit at his house from scrap wood for the office for this record label he was working at. And then he got into it. He was like, yo, I'm actually a way better carpenter than I am a music exec. Like, what am I doing? You know? I have a second homie who sings background for like Grammy award winning artists, like huge. He's performed at the Grammys. You know what I'm saying? He's also an R&B artist. Same thing. He started getting into like building shit, and like he got married, and his wife was like, I want X, Y, and Z, and they couldn't afford it. So he started figuring out how to build it. Now he's doing brand partnerships with Timberland. He's building soundproof studios. He built something for T-Pain recently. And he's like, his understanding from what a vocalist needs helped him build a vocal chamber that was revolutionary. But he finally was like, actually, I'm way more motivated to make my wife happy. I'm way more motivated to have a stable house and a successful existence as a man than I am to be an R&B artist. And he still makes music.
I want to talk about this too.
You know what I'm saying? So it's
not like, today, but in the future. But
yeah, like get real. Like you don't have to do this shit for a living.
Well, just because people might look at that and be like, okay, so now he's just focusing on making money. And so he's built, you know, because carpenters have a more stable income than a music exec. And again, it's people just kind of talking out of both sides of their mouth, where, you know, on the one hand, they're like, well, music's not paying, everything's trash, I'm not getting support. On the other hand, they're like, oh, if you do this for money, you've sold your soul. I definitely want to pick up on that. I just have a totally different direction I want to go in for today's episode.
Nah, for sure. And I'll say, if you want to stay in the music industry, you could stay in the industry. I thought I wanted to be the biggest manager in the world. I realized I didn't want that shit. So I take my management expertise and I use that to consult and clearly the podcast, and you can still be adjacent to what you thought. It's okay to migrate. That's the whole point of this. It's okay to migrate. Believe in yourself more than sticking with something that you hate or don't actually care about.
Of course. So speaking of migrating, let me migrate to this story that Trey from T4B Entertainment sent me on Instagram. He said, I hope you cover this in the podcast. And, you know, I'm here to make people's wishes come true. So basically, there's a story from this week. SAG, the Screen Actors Guild, struck a deal with major labels on song recordings, including protections for AI use. That's obviously a big deal. Every single day I check my comments, it's some producer saying, okay, beat making is dead, or it's about to be dead. You should quit making beats, get a real job, because AI is going to replace all your producers. My thing with that is I'm going to tell them, kiss my ass, because either I'm going to be wrong and I'm going to have way bigger problems to deal with than someone saying, I told you so, or I'm going to be on the winning side. So either way, what am I going to do? Worry about it? Stay up all night? No. SAG-AFTRA has reached a tentative multi-year agreement with major record labels on a new sound recordings deal. and it has to do with it. It's an agreement which succeeds the National Code of Fair Practice for Sound Recordings and covers a period from January 1st, 2021 to December 31st, 2026. It includes Warner Music Group, Sony Music Entertainment, Universal Music Group, and Disney Music Group. So all the majors, literally all. They say, this is from musicbusinessworldwide.com, though it still requires ratification by SAG-AFTRA, and it's their agreement. So I don't see why they wouldn't agree to it. This deal is a significant development for recording artists as it establishes safeguards for what the union calls ethical and responsible treatment in the use of artificial intelligence technology. So I guess this is key. The deal requires clear and conspicuous consent for the use of an artist's voice in AI generated content, along with minimum compensation levels and details of the intended use of the AI replica. So basically what it sounds like to me is that major labels are great at retrofitting shit. That's what they did with streaming. Streaming comes out and they're like, okay, all those contracts you signed in the 80s and 70s and 90s before streaming happened, those actually apply to streaming. So we're going to put all your shit on streaming and pay you this lower rate that you never agreed to. So I could see them doing this. I thought they were going to do the same thing with AI, where suddenly they're like, well, yeah, we didn't explicitly say in your contracts when you sign a deal with us that we could take your voice and create AI models after it, but we can. Here's why. We're just going to call it an extension of this provision. They do that. So this protects them from doing that. It prevents the labels from doing some backdoor sneaky shit and actually forces them to clearly communicate that, get clear consent from artists. And this is my interpretation of the law. Clear and conspicuous consent. And then have and set some minimum compensation levels. So probably some kind of compensation structure. Now, great. This is the power of having a major union behind you. There are AI platforms all across the globe that aren't beholden because they're just kind of going rogue. Nobody knows what they're ingesting. There are all these and music generators, not just AI voice models, music generators. This affects beat makers quite a bit. And they're definitely, I don't even feel bad. The last time we had a similar conversation, I felt bad saying this. I don't even feel bad saying this. They're definitely using copyrighted content to train their AI models. They just are. Like when you go on to any of these platforms and say, all right, create a trap beat for me. And then they do it and it sounds current. Okay, where are you getting those beats from to train your AI on? There's no way you've gotten a whole bunch of producers that are just sending you thousands and thousands of their beats. No, you're getting them from YouTube probably. You're probably stealing them from BeatStars. Who knows? And
the CEO of that one company, what's the name of that? I can't remember. He left because he was saying, oh, y'all are stealing IP to teach our AI how to emulate all of these artists and sounds. And he was like, this is unethical. And when our company first got acquired, I was against this and they said we wouldn't do it. And then they did. I can't remember the company. I want to look it up. But we definitely had a conversation about it when it was first happening.
I'm going to look it up.
Yeah, I wanted Stability? To say Opus, but it's not Opus.
Was it Stability AI?
Maybe. And it was like the CEO, I feel like he resigned within the last 4 or 5 months. Maybe it was like right at the end of last year or the top of this year. And he just was like, I can't be a part of this. Y'all are like stealing IP from people to build our AI. And it's just going under the radar because the copyright owners have no idea that it's happening and no wherewithal to protect themselves. And there's no type of legal thing to protect them right now,
Yeah. Well, and there's not for the vast majority of us. And, major labels to an extent have an incentive to stop their artists from being exploited by AI platforms. So yeah, they have to deal with the unions and they sign these agreements. They're still going to make their money. But they don't care about the millions of unsigned artists out there. So we're just kind of left out in the cold. As producers, as beat makers, nobody protects us. in 2017, I want to know your opinion on this because Sony Digital's from Atlanta, right? He was big in spearheading the idea
of a producer's union.
A producer union. If, you know, and a lot of producers wanted to join the producer union. A lot of producers wanted to join the producer union. The problem is producers are notoriously terrible business people.
Yeah.
Who like just kind of.
Y'all are exactly artists. Shout out to y'all though.
Yeah, but artists have protection. Producers don't. So one thing artists have over us is they have some sort of unions already in place. At least some of them. I mean, there's a union when my friend Memory played guitar on the Ludacris and Rick Ross record I produced. He had a union behind him as a session player. Me as the guy that made the beat, I don't have a union. So I would love that, especially now. I mean, back then I'm like, producer union, we can't get it together. There's no way. Now I'm like, I don't care if we get it together. If we can just get 100,000 of us with our shit together, let's unionize, because right now AI is looking at us like it's open season. They can't really touch certain other creatives, but they can walk all over producers because no one is protecting us. No, and as a matter of fact, there are a lot of lawsuits going on. I personally feel like they reveal the problems that AI creates more than they offer solutions or protections. But like Reddit, for example, there was a lawsuit against Reddit. And it's because Reddit struck a deal with Google. This was a while ago to make all of its content available for training the search engine, their AI models. So probably Google Bard, you know, they can just ingest all that info. And Reddit's CEO didn't create that info. That's the thing. When you go on these social media sites, social media platforms, and you know, Reddit, whatever, you don't own that content. Whatever you type and post on there, that's theirs. You're granting them a license to use that however they want. And how they want to do it is probably get tens of millions of dollars from Google to train AI models based on your knowledge, your experiences, and your humanity. So we really are living damn near in a Terminator movie. It's just instead of, you know, walking around with guns, they're walking around with intellectual property vacuums that just sucks up what we do and spits out profits for everybody but ourselves. So obviously there's a lot of pushback, and the people with the money tend to be the ones that win these lawsuits. But if you go to sustainablepartner.com, there's this generative AI lawsuit timeline, and there's a lawsuit every single month, a couple lawsuits every single month. There are two from this month. One is for YouTube. The most recent one is OpenAI and Google train their AI models on text transcribed from YouTube videos, potentially violating creators' copyrights, according to the New York Times. So they're just going to war with all creators. I obviously worry about producers, and you know, the YouTube thing is relevant to me because we're on YouTube right now. And yeah, they can take this podcast and feed it into an AI, and next thing you know, there's like a music business expert AI trained on everything that we've put out and other people put out. I don't want to scare people. Like if you use, I know with BeatStars, there's a Lemonade AI, and I talked to the CEO of that directly, and their whole thing is ethics. And so it's very similar to what, from my understanding, I'm looking into it, but it's similar to the SAG-AFTRA provisions where there's a minimum payment model that's based on you consensually providing your input to their AI models. So it's not like, you know, because I think a lot of it is, and I've been contacted by sites like this where they'll ask me, they're like, Payne, we're creating a AI beat generator. Can you send us some MIDIs? We'll give you $100. And I'm like, so you're going to give me $100 to just suck all of my humanity out of my brain and into your AI thing. And that AI thing is going to create all these different versions of me. And then you're going to make millions of dollars off that. And I just got 100 because you think I'm a sucker. But there are a lot of suckers out there. There's one born every minute, as they say. So a lot of this is going to happen. The writers' strikes, a lot of that had to do with AI. And it had to do with the streaming services. Because, we in the music business, we talk about streaming all the time. But streaming affects film writers and film producers as well. Netflix is a streaming service. Netflix to script writers, I feel like, is Spotify to songwriters in a lot of ways. So the Writers Guild of America did something about that, and they got some protections against AI script writing infringement on existing scripts, et cetera. But ultimately, it's still illegal for an AI platform to ingest existing scripts. It's illegal just based on federal copyright law. That could change, but right now, it's illegal to just take copyrighted material and throw it into an AI system. But companies are doing it anyway. Midjourney did it. There was a lawsuit there. I don't know if they lost or what. It's kind of like, what do you do at this point? They've done it. They're not going to delete their platform. The judge is not going to rule against that because we live in America where the dollar rules. So what do we're just fucked at this point. We can only just protect what's left, I guess.
I think it's time for people to understand the landscape of the music industry and then decide where they want to go, how they want to show up, and what they want to do, and then move accordingly. If you're waiting for people to give you options and answers and solutions, you're going to get fucked. And I'm not saying that you shouldn't be looking for you shouldn't be looking for people. Like, I think a producers union is great. And I think it's important for us to look to the collective to build on legislation, to build on ideation, even because there's stuff that you won't understand. Everybody isn't a lawyer or fully understands everything. But I also believe, back to really our first point, it's incumbent upon you to decide what you want and to move in that direction, because it's all about dollars and cents. And anybody who says it isn't, unfortunately, is living in an age that actually never was. There are a lot of us who aren't solely focused on dollars and cents, but the powers that be are. So in order for you to function in the way that's best for you, where you get to be an artist and an entrepreneur, you have to make the decision to learn enough and say, hey, I'm going to move in the direction that I feel led to. And then I'm going to learn how to monetize this direction in a way that feels natural, ethical, and responsible to me.
I'm trying to think, and let me ask you this, Erinn. Say a producers union were to form. Obviously, the biggest hurdle is just getting people on board and they're paying dues, because it's not just a matter of signing up to an email list. You got to put your money where your mouth is, because these unions, they need money in order to exert power, because as we just established, money's power out here. But what would it look like? What protections would the producer union really offer?
I think that's the hard part too, because it's like, if you look at PROs, they cover a certain level of protections, which is why we allow them to assess our dues and then pay us out a portion, and they make a portion. So I think it would really take a lawyer who was very understanding of the music industry and in tune with the needs of producers. It would also take, I feel like, a producer's bureau or whatever, who were like leaned in on like, this is the things, like content ID, royalty splits, payment structures. I think it would take people in your position who can speak both languages, younger producers who are like, we're disgruntled about these things, but there needs to be like a producer caucus where people are talking so the smaller producers feel represented, the bigger producers feel represented, and then there's an understanding being translated. Because a lot of times people are disgruntled, but it's because they don't actually realize that there are more rights and things in place for them, or they're misunderstanding the laws and the governance. So then they're like, well, this and this and this. And it's like, well, no, if you do it this way, so I think there has to be this translation of information, but also a conversation around what the actual needs are. And if it's like, maybe y'all have a handful of meetings, town halls, and then it's like, okay, these are the 7 things that we're going to protect. And if you pay your dues in, you're protected up to this amount. And, so I think there's got to be some organization in place, and there's got to be some education in place. And then there's got to be, outside of the legal aspects, there's got to be a management system in place to where there's another business type managing and informing and talking through it. So it would take some organization. I think that there is a lot of space for it. I think there's a chance that it'll eventually happen, but I do think it's a hard place that people dwell in, that producers exist in, and it needs to be represented in a better way. And I think a producers union would be great, but it's going to take a lot to make it happen.
Yeah, because we would be setting standards and minimums for advances, standards and minimums for publishing splits, maybe streamlining the sample clearance process, working with publishers, working with PROs, not reinventing the wheel, obviously, just advocating within the space that's already there so that producers can't get screwed. Because, we're getting tricked out our splits all the time because there isn't a union. There's no, like when it comes to other unions, there are salary negotiations. So if you have seniority, this is what you get. If you don't, this is what you get. In the music business, you could be new and someone would be like, yeah, you here's the beat, but you're only getting, $500 for it, but it's for a major project. Yeah. But this is album track. They can lie to you and say whatever they want. With a producers union, there would be a minimum. They were like, no, you have to pay them $2,500 minimum for this advance. And if they don't use your resources to create the master, then they have to get a minimum of 5 points. If they're a loop maker, they have to get a minimum of 20% of whatever the overall producer's split is. There would just be some kind of standardization there where across the board, that's what we accept. No one can play us against each other, because that's what's happening right now. A lot of people are getting played against one another. And so people who are ready to just take whatever scraps because they want the opportunity, they end up poisoning the well for all of us. So there's a lot to think about. I'd like to continue this conversation. I wish we could get Sony Digital on here. Could happen. We'll see.
Let's see about it.
Yeah. If anyone's watching this and Sony Digital, don't just go spam the man, but let them know that would be
manager. It. I may reach out. We'll
see.
I don't know him, but like we've been on a couple of conversation or panels together. We run into each other in the Atlanta airport regularly enough to where he at least knows my face. So let me see if I can reach out. I don't know if that'll help with this Sunny thing, but I'll see what's up.
It could happen. That's all we're gonna say. We're not making any promises, other than if you sign up for 2 Lost Premium Music Distribution, you will get 3 months free. Using the code @odds, you can upload a lot of projects in 3 months. I would say just schedule it out a month in advance so you get on release radar. @odds is the promo code, 3 months free on 2lost.com. Appreciate you tuning in. Erinn, thank you for joining, even though you're in a tropical setting and could be drinking something out of a coconut right now. There you go. It's a clear coconut.
You're welcome.
So until next time.